That's Sunny's computer.
Monstery Archer. Oh, no, that's myself. Yeah, okay, great. So this, my friends, is actually an example of an anime script. That's what we're looking at right now. We'll get to that in a little bit. Don't get too lost in it right now because it kind of looks like a crazy chart, and I'll explain it in a moment. But first, talking about subs versus dubs, a lot of things that bother people about subs are sort of just part of the process. I've had a lot of people ask me some interesting questions like, well, when I watch the subs versus dubs, why don't you just take the subscript and use that when you're dubbing instead of anything else? Because I think the sub is purest, pure born. Exactly the translation of Japanese. I don't need any English-speaking actors. And it's like, well, I would, except no. The interesting thing about having been a person who speaks English primarily is their most used language. We happen to be sort of spoiled when it comes to media. What's happening? From your mom. Frustrated mom. Also, by the way, Koi Dao is here, everyone.
Hi!
He's the one ruining my life, apparently. Koi.
Yes?
You realize you have to sit next to me on a plane for 15 hours. Yeah.
It's not very quiet.
He was mistaken.
I didn't do anything.
Did he? Alright. Watch him, by the way.
How many cookies to keep him sated?
There's more cookies? Koi, if you're not a good boy, you don't get any more cookies.
No!
Exactly.
That's a warning.
Yeah. Don't cry. So, as people who speak primarily English, we are really spoiled when we watch a lot of media because all of the noises that come out of the actors and animators' faces match what those laps are doing. I mean, you know an example of when it doesn't is when you watch those old kung fu feature films, right? They say something to you and their mouth just keeps going like that, right? And it's hilarious. In other countries where they speak other languages, often we have our media dubbed into their particular language, and they don't get that luxury. Everything sort of looks like a kung fu feature film for them because a lot of stuff is catered to the Western market. And because of that, when you watch dubs where that's not quite landing the way that we expect it to land, we get mad or we get disinterested and we stop watching because it's jarring to our eyes since we're so used to it lining it all up. So we all line it up for you. Dubs were created primarily not just to piss off people who really like subs, but also as an accessibility tool. They are for folks who maybe have trouble with reading. I happen to have dyslexia. I chose a really weird job for a person who has dyslexia, but I do. And there are a lot of us who also have to deal with those sorts of things as learning disabilities or have trouble focusing, or maybe you just want to clean and watch One Piece at the same time, right? So dubs were created so these pieces of media can be accessible to a wider audience, and that's why, not just to make people upset. Another thing that gets people mad is oftentimes when you watch a dub versus a sub, sometimes characters' names have changed. They've changed away from the original script to something that either is like adjacent or is completely changed or what have you, and we'll often hear about that for a long time on Twitter. The reason for that, 9 times out of 10, that name has changed has been because the Japanese client has asked it to change. A lot of changes that you see in scripts from subs to dubs, even along like storylines and things, were asked for primarily by the original creators of that media, because it is their idea and intent that whatever change they're making is going to make it more accessible to the audience they're bringing it to. They feel like, oh, that's going to be, you're Remember the original Pokemon? Remember the jelly donuts? They were so sure that we would not understand onigiri or rice balls that they're like, just call them jelly donuts, they'll never know the difference. Now it's a meme and it's all their fault. So things like that are always talked over with the Japanese client to make sure that's what they want. They'll often send us a glossary of things that they want changed, or they want removed, or they want adjusted. There's a show that I'm a part of. One of my very first lead characters was Iger Akabane in Beyblade Burst Turbo. I don't know if anybody here understands Beyblade. Yeah? Alright, okay. Well, Beyblade is kind of a show about toys, right? It's basically a very, 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 very long commercial for toys. Which a lot of cartoons and things are. But particularly in the States, there are some parts of those shows that have to be changed and adjusted from the original Japanese media, specifically because some of that footage, if it's shown the way it was originally intended, it is then actually classified as a commercial, and you have to charge differently for commercials. You have to get different licenses for commercials rather than a television show. So they had to pull certain things out, like things that were featuring the actual bays themselves, and some of those, like some of their attacks and some of their, just the features and things, the technical features had to be sort of removed because it might have been like a false promise or an actual commercial. So we had to take those out and change things and adjust them to make sure that these were all legal and kosher in the Western market. So if there are things that changed from the sub versus the dub and made you mad, I'm sorry, my boss told me to. Okay? Yeah, okay, so let's see. Let's talk about the script really quick. We'll move on to that really fast. And I'm going to try to get through some of this as quickly as I can, and then I'm actually going to show you a little, this snippet here I actually have as a video. I'm going to show that to you to show you how it translates from the script onto the screen. And then from there, we're going to take some questions. Does that make sense? Does that sound good to everybody?
Yeah.
Nice, okay. Alright, so here's a typical script. This is in fact a script that I adapted, and a script that I acted, which is fun. And yeah, so here, let's start on this side actually. We'll start on this side. This little column here with a very, very small type, right here. This is the original translation. So the script goes to lots and lots of different people before it actually reaches the eyes of the director and the actor, or even the eyes of the adapter. And I call myself an adapter rather than the writer, because this show was already written before I got my hands on it, right? Somebody else thought of the characters, thought of the storyline, thought of the actions that were going to happen, and wrote them all out. They just wrote them out in Japanese. So I didn't write this. I just adapted it so that people who watch it who speak English will understand it and will feel good about it, at least hopefully. Anyway, so this is all the direct translation, and sometimes it really matches up, it makes lots and lots of sense, and you're like, oh yeah, that'll work, and in fact, it might even fit in those mouth flaps, and I don't have to change anything. And lots of clients really love it when you do that because you're staying as authentic and true to the original intention as possible. Sometimes it's just word salad. Sometimes you have no idea what is being said. Sometimes it's just a list of nouns and verbs, and you just kind of have to switch together and make it work. Let's see. I think right here we don't really have anything that doesn't necessarily work. The human world will inevitably end. Would not fit the timing of the end of humanity is inevitable. Notice how it takes a different amount of time to say both of those things, even though they kind of mean the same. Like, the human world will inevitably end. It's a decent sentence. It's something you understand, and you get that the type of person who's going to say that is probably, you know, in a bad mood. However, we also have to take into account how long it takes to say it, because we only have as much time as that animation that already exists has given us. So I changed it to the end of humanity is inevitable, which takes less time, but means the same thing. So really, adapting anime is basically just a bunch of work because it's for the most part. So that's your translation. This is the adaptation, which we just described. You also see here you got like a little carrot. That spot, and here. That's not just there because I accidentally smacked it. That is there intentionally because it tells the actor where they need to pause. Because you know how you're watching anime and sometimes you have those weird pauses? Like they're talking to you and they say, however, this is where I was headed all along. Or sometimes you'll have people say things, very interesting sentences where they add the words just eventually. I mean, we can, whenever we have to, and they keep going and going and going and going. It's because there's this much information to give you and this much time to give to you in. So we have to fill all of those mouth laughs. It would be really strange if you just said, I want a sandwich, and the mouth just kept. Right? So you change, I want a sandwich to, you know, I'm really interested in getting a sandwich in a little while. Right? You stretch that out, and you try to do so in a way that's artful and still feels like you're receiving the amount of information. What are you doing? Stubborn soldier died for a sandwich. Now, if you were really pandering, you would have written sausage roll. But you didn't. There you go.
I got you.
I just want you all to know this is what he's like 110% of the time. Whether or not you are here, he is himself. So you would read this, that stubborn soldier died for nothing, so no one can protect the world from me. Which also leads to, if you see a sentence like this and it does not have this little carrot here, you have to just keep going. We don't believe in grammar in anime. We don't believe in commas in anime. We barely believe in periods in anime. We just keep going and going and going and going and going until the mouth stops, right? I know you've seen it. I know you've made fun of it with your friends. It's not my fault. So instead, if that carrot wasn't there, you'd say, the stubborn soldier died for nothing, so no one can protect the world from me. Hopefully with acting involved. You know what I mean? So there's those things. And then underneath that, we have these two very interesting little things. Nobody on the planet is going to say CLT, frustrated hiss. That's not actually a line. That is, in fact, an effort. That's what we call those. Those are efforts and reactions. Those are all those weird things. Do you remember, like, my favorite was Speed Racer 1,000 years ago? And how they would do like, huh? Right? All those things. They would make the craziest noises on the planet, and we still do that to this day. I call it the secret anime noise. Right? That noise that we hear all the time. It's added in because of the animators. They give you all the space to emote, and just sometimes not words. And you have to fill that space. Or you're punching something, or you're getting hit, or all of those other things. Those all have to be notated in the script. And we do that like this. And we see these letters here. Can anybody sort of hazard a guess at what CLT might mean? I know it's quite early. Don't help them.
Starts with a T. What do you clench?
There you go. Clenched teeth. That is correct. It's clenched teeth. So you're frustrated pitch through clenched teeth because we want to try to match what the mouth is doing. You notice how sometimes we have those noises and the mouth is closed, and so you have, or like that. Evil characters often will laugh maniacally with their mouth closed. We will indicate that in the script. OM would be what?
Open mouth.
Open mouth. Now you're all to work in anime. Well, yeah. Open mouth, closed mouth, clenched teeth, stuff like that. It's too late, we're gonna talk about it. Say it for him so you can start. Somebody say it, go! Closed mouth, what happened? Stop! Boy!
Yeah? I'm helping.
We believe you.
Yeah.
Give Koi a hand, he's such a wonderful man. Alright, and then we have other stuff underneath here. We see M and S, and then we have this line, underline. Why is it going away? Koi, please, for the love of God. Why are all the, never mind, it's fine, alright. M and S stands for, we'll just go through it, mouth not seen. That tells me that maybe you see the characters in the back of their head, maybe we're over their shoulder, maybe we're looking at their hand. All of those other things tell me that I don't have to match any sort of timing when it comes to the mouth because I can't see it. Which is awesome. Because I don't have to worry about it. I can just act the way I want to act and not worry about those dumb hitches and things that we have to just deal with. Language. Mouth,
One of the crispy
correct. Sometimes you'll watch, especially like in like the comedy anime, how people will have things to say and they'll be saying them all over the place, so they won't animate the mouth. They're just like, deal with it. Alright, fine. That's mouth not moving, then that's mouth not seen. In mouth not seen, you have much more freedom because you don't have to match those mouth flaps. What's this one? Please help him. Jaw movement seen. So say we're just on the side of their mouth, we don't see their face with that little, with the chin is bobbing up and down. We can match that. That's what jaw movement is. Koi. That is not a technical term when you're writing anime. I mean, it is when you're playing video games, I guess. Okay. Yeah. And then over here, we'll see M and S to O-N. Mouth not seen to on. Right? So when you see we have this underline, and then suddenly it's not underlined, that lets us know that our mouth is not seen until we get to about there in the sentence. So we have to time ourselves so that we have at least a little bit left of that wording to help us finish out that moment. Yeah, and that kind of wraps this side up, all of this stuff here. All of these little tools that we have, all of these little short bits here and there, the carrots and the abbreviations, are there to help the directors and the actors get through these moments as quickly as they can and as effectively as they can. Because what are you doing now?
I can see that.
Oh yeah, there you go. You can see it. We do this because 9 times out of 10 when you're working in anime, you're working very quickly. That means your actors most likely have not seen the script at all, until they walk into the booth. I remember one day when I was working on 7 Deadly Sins, I walked into the booth that morning, and Chris Cason, the director, looked at me and said, "All right, we're going to start the day with about 3 minutes of uncontrollable sobbing. You ready to cry?" Okay. and off we went to the races. So you have to be ready and flexible for anything. And the way that we can do that is by working as a team together with the production folks and the directors and the writers and all of that stuff. Over here, pretty straightforward. These are all character names. Right now it's all just Ushiwaka Maru. That is the character I played. That is a long, weird name. Scroll back up so you can see other characters' names. Yeah. See, there's Gorgon, and then Ritsuka, and then there's Mash, and then there's Ushiwaka Maru. So whoever is saying this line, that's who's here. Really straightforward, right? The way that can get interesting is when you're dealing with your incidental characters who don't have names. So you'll have things like man, but say you've got 1,000 of those guys. So you've got like man 1, man 2. Or you'll have, to let us know what episode it is. So say it's episode 4 and you've got several dudes. What's happening? I'm just going to remind you that this is not an 18+ panel, and I'm going to throw my shoe at you. Boy, the shoe's coming off.
I didn't do nothing.
Alright, so you will indicate which episode you're in. So it's episode 4, and this is the 3rd man you've seen. So you'll have man 4 A, B, C, right? So man 4C to indicate that this is a different person from man 4A, or the first one, or what have you, right? So that kind of lets you know where you're going with the character names. Over here we've got time codes. That looks confusing and horrible. Let's talk about that. So the time coding, if you're a lucky writer, then you don't really necessarily have to do this. This is usually handed off to a different person. This is another person's job. They are my lifeline. They are my lifeblood. They are my saviors. What that means, what they have to do there is they have to go from the beginning to the end of the episode, to the beginning to the end of the movie or what have you, and notate the exact minute, second, and frame that every single utterance of sound begins in the show. And that means whether it's on camera or off camera. That means if they're screaming or shouting or crying or speaking. If you've got a walla, which is a large background group of people, they have to estimate how many people are there saying these things, what they're saying, and for how long. They have to. It can be so tedious. You have to notate every single moment. And I've seen scripts that have had upwards of 600 loops. With a loop is one of these 600 lines where they have to notate every single one and give you the minute, the second, and frame that each line begins. And sometimes when each line ends, because if you're laughing for a full 13 seconds, you need to know when you can dump out and actually take a breath. Right? It sucks. But, it's necessary so we can actually find where everybody's saying something and get excited. And then over here, of course, it's just a number notation so they can find where each line is. During a typical session of anime, the director will have a kind of sorted script that's not just in chronological order like this, as well as this one. What did you just do?
I did a real correction.
Okay.
This time.
I'm watching you. So they'll have it all grouped up for everything that one character says. They'll have all in a group. So that will jump around the script so they know exactly what it can get through, because they're working with one character at a time. And they need to be able to hunt through the entire script quickly and find where every time that they make a noise and have it made. And then they can tell the person to go home. So that's what all those numbers are there for, to help you find and hunt through the whole script to get that finished. So that's basically a scripted anime. Not every scripted anime looks just like this. There are several different types of these scripts because different production houses will work in different ways. There are some production houses that use literally Google Docs to do this. There are some production houses that don't like to go just line by line like this. They like to have like a little grouping, possibly, of like 2 or 3 of them all together in one. So, and especially if it's like one leads into another just for flow. It all depends on the style of the particular production house, of the particular writer, such and so on. But in the meantime, you've seen this. Do we actually have the video?
Yeah.
So let's watch it. We just saw what the script looks like. We're going to watch the sample of this particular moment. And if we're lucky, we'll be able to fit them both. Maybe not. We'll be able to fit both things together so you can see and kind of follow along. Maybe not. I don't know. But this particular script in this particular moment is from an episode of Fate, Grand Order, Absolute Demonic Front, Babylonia.
It's not available in our country.
Well, you'll get to see a little snippet of it here. Don't tell anybody I showed you.
Showed us what?
Exactly. So this is from a show called Fate. It is a pretty popular show in the United States, a pretty popular show in Japan, of course. They have several iterations of it. And so this is a little bit of spoiler alert, but hopefully not too much. I don't know, you can't hear it yet. We're going to work on that.
There's some of Fates in it, but we don't have skills on Netflix.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of Fate. So this is from the iteration of this Fate is Fate's Grand Order, and it's following Ritsuka and it's following MASH as they're on their big quest to save the
We're ready.
We're ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're starting at 146 and going all the way down. Here's the snippet.
The end of humanity is inevitable. That stubborn soldier died for nothing, so no one can protect the world from me.
It's out of
It
sync.
is way out of sync. That's not what it's supposed to look like.
Why?
This is an example of doing the job very badly. That was great.
The end of humanity is inevitable.
Oh no.
That stubborn soldier died for nothing, so no one.
Nope.
Try closing and
Still
opening
not
it.
working. But I promise it's good. I did really, I tried really hard.
He was mistaken.
There we go.
The end of humanity is inevitable. That stubborn soldier died for nothing, so no one can protect.
Why?
I don't know.
It's pretty stubborn.
He was so stubborn.
All stuff on the computer.
Incredibly stubborn.
No, he wasn't. They hadn't summoned that heroic spirit yet. The meeting they would think she quit the gotcha first.
Oh yeah. We don't know. Technical issues are also very prevalent in creating anime. This happens a lot. Especially if you're remotely importing. What's happening? Welcome to Windows Media Player. Are we installing Media Player?
He was mistaken. The end of humanity is inevitable. That stubborn soldier died for nothing, so no one can protect the world from me.
God damn it.
Yeah, right? It's all good. We're trying. We're doing our best. What is that?
He died for the lip sync. He tried to save it, but
He did. He tried to save the
I
sync.
don't
He
think
died
I
for the
have
sync.
software.
yes, he died for the lip sync.
Yeah, we're not second. So he died for nothing.
Huh?
No, I don't. I don't think we do. Do we have VLC player on this thing? No. Is this hooked up via HDMI? Do you see
No.
Hey Laura, I don't think it's gonna happen.
I don't think it is either.
Yeah.
Alright. It's fine. I promise. It was great. How was that, everybody? Do you like it?
Yeah! It's all good.
Awesome!
It was perfect and nothing went wrong.
Yeah, but it was everything was perfect and nothing went wrong.
No.
Just
I
like
read this
all
yesterday.
anime does. Thanks, loves. Alright. So I guess in light of that, we can move on to
happens.
questions.
Yeah.
If we have any questions. Do we have any questions? We only have 15 minutes anyways. We do? If there are any questions,
I'll run around.
will this work? No?
Oh, okay.
Oh, you want questions? Pop on over here for me.
5 at a time.
Will this work? Will this work? This does not work. Can we, is this? Alright, we'll try to go quickly. This is not working, so. Right here. This one right here is not good. This one right here. No, it's not working.
switched on.
What is your question?
It's not plugged in.
With map not seen, I know that can allow more accuracy to the original translation. Are there times you still change it even with map not seen?
It switched out. It got switched out.
In fact, yes, there would be moments to change it with not seen, depending on the circumstance. You would do so, one, if, say, the concept is not necessarily available in English as it is in Japanese. There are some concepts that are inherently Japanese and not necessarily Western. Or, if even with that mouth not seen moment, the timing just does not match. Like, say, it just takes so much longer to say something in Japanese as opposed to English, or vice versa, which is usual. There are some concepts, and Japanese actually happens at a faster rate than English does. So oftentimes they'll give you a whole bunch of information in that much time to say it. So often we'll have to try to paraphrase or pull out or pare down, but still convey as much of the original idea as possible. Does that help? Excellent. Does this one work now?
Yeah.
Lovely. What's your question, Ellen?
Yeah, hi. I know the voice actors, they'd like to... Can't have it run that tall. Do you actually get the chance or fun to actually prank other voice actors? Because I've met a few who actually cut loose and just wind each other up.
Oh, we wind each other up all the time. Absolutely. Usually not in the script because the client can see the script and then we get fired. Right? But say in the booth, a lot of times we'll do our lines as written, of course. We'll do our best to do our job in a respectful way. However, especially if we're moving along at a pretty comfortable clip and we have a little bit of extra time to play, which is not always possible. Sometimes we really need to get through everything. But if you got some extra time, maybe you'll do the correct take, you'll put that away. And then sometimes you might do a blooper take. Sometimes you might call people four-letter words. Sometimes we'll say things that are never going to see the light of day. I will say that somewhere in the world there is a little USB full of instances just like that from Beyblade vs. Turbo, which will never ever see the light of day because that's a Disney property, so don't tell anyone. But yeah, we had a lot of fun on that particular show.
That's Disney, everyone!
Oh, shh! Don't tell the mouse, he's gonna get me! But yeah, we will play with each other quite a bit. We'll leave little bloopers and things, and oftentimes the director will play along and like mark off which lines we might have done that on, so that when that actor comes in later, they get to hear it and respond if they want to and things like that. But yes, we play often. Thank you, my friend. Hi.
Hello, I know you touched on it earlier with the first question, but I was going to ask how you deal with concepts that don't translate super well, ignoring the timing and spacing issues. Like with I stuff like obake, the distinctions between different places here is Japanese or regional dialects. I know you were in this kind of cheap position, for example, where you were the main girl, but every girl in Japanese has a very distinctive regional accent. Do you have ever notes for that, or are you told off for doing some accents?
Oh no, actually, so it depends from series to series what the client would like. Oftentimes, I'm sure you've heard, sometimes, depending on where the person is within Japan, they might have sort of a southern accent, southern drawl from America, and they'll do lots of other things to play, like Shinyan from Genshin Impact. That was actually, the way that happened was interesting because when they sent out those auditions, they asked to hear it with the accent and without. And the client chose the accent when they hired me. So it's not my fault for it meant me. But things like that. And then Koi, you also have some good ideas about how to deal with concepts that don't translate from Japanese to English, right?
Insofar as like accents in foreign languages that appear in the original Japanese are concerned?
That and like the comedy and stuff that, or saying.
Oh right, so the job isn't just translation, it's also localization, which means a joke that works in Japanese, especially puns, because Japanese humor is very pun-based. Those don't always work in English because the word for frying pan isn't the same, or the word for chicken dinner isn't the same. And that was crucial to the Japanese understanding of the joke. And so often we'll change it to something else entirely, and the thing that we're seeking to preserve isn't a word-to-word, apples-to-apples translation. It's trying to preserve the heart of the joke. So as long as it's, I don't know, if the joke was something cooking related in the original Japanese, we'll make another cooking joke in the English using different words, maybe a different setup, different structure. As long as we preserve the heart, that's the main goal. And jokes are indeed one of the most difficult things to localize, because Japanese humor is just so specific.
Thank you.
Yeah, that would be simple, my friend. That way. Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
My question was around, like, is this process similar for games as well, or is it kind of different when you've got sort of models or like animation?
Ooh, it's similar, it depends. So, like say when we were working on Fire Emblem Engage, there was a lot more freedom for a lot of the lines because they were able to take those lines and paste them into the models. And so we didn't necessarily have to match as much timing and flaps. However, for the cutscenes, we did. We had to go line by line, just like you would with any anime. Or say with Genshin Impact, they are a lot freer with how much time and energy we have to act at that moment. They're like sort of take your time and do what you need to do, and the characters, of course, are just sort of standing there and sort of floating and having a nice time, or going through more things. One of you. But the idea is the same. The clients often have a lot more of their fingers in the pot as opposed for the localization there because they kind of have more of a hands-on feel, depending on the property again. So I don't write as much for video games as I do for anime, but the localization happens there quite a bit. It goes through several iterations, and even within the booth at that point, and also sometimes within anime as well. In the booth, they'll often look at how the line was translated and how they feel about it. Maybe they'll make some adjustments even there as they're recording. Right? Koi?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
That way, please.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi, I hope you don't mind me asking, because this isn't necessarily about like this. I asked this yesterday, and you said you didn't have enough time to answer, so to ask again today. So I just watched season 1 of Promised Neverlands, and I've been told by many people just read manga and not bother with season 2, because it's very different and not as good as manga. And I was just wondering kind of your opinions on that, why the studio in essentially decided to go down that route in general, obviously not just for Promised Neverlands, many anime, it's changed from the source material, why did they go down that route?
Right, you're absolutely right, that does happen. So, in Japan, the primary use and reason for anime is to basically advertise the manga. It's like, hey, look, this cool anime, it's amazing. Here's like the rest of the like in-depth story, you should go read that. So people will go and do so. However, over the course of Promised Neverland and within the first season, we were very lucky in how closely the animation, the anime, resembled the manga, which was a really cool story. And so we got to really play in that, really be in depth, and really stay and honor the first story that happened. However, when we got to the point where we were able to start production on the second season, the manga had already ended. So there really wasn't necessarily a need to continue to advertise it. So I think in Japan, this is also speculation, but in Japan it seemed that their ability, their time, and the funds that would go to the anime were truncated. So they had to try to quickly finish the story, and the story is very long, and there's very in-depth, and there are so many more characters to meet, so many more places to go, and there's so much, it's very, 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 very involved, and really cool. However, because we only had so many episodes with which to reach the end of the story, a lot of it had to be pulled out for the animation. So we had to lose a few of those characters, we had to lose a few of those concepts, some of those places, and we had to sort of follow the key points to the end. And we did the best with that as we could. We had the materials they gave us, we tried to honor as well as we possibly could, however they were what they were. And so if they weren't necessarily the pieces of the story that you would have preferred to hear, unfortunately that's going to disappoint some folks. There were some key points that were important that we did get to see, but there was a lot more that we did not. So people will suggest read the manga because you get to submerge yourself in much more of the world than you get introduced to in the anime. Which I would also suggest you should read the manga. I read the manga, I love the manga. And the anime you can watch, but I would say watch it knowing that you're going to be missing out on a lot of good points. And a lot of questions you may have would definitely be answered in the manga. Sure, thanks.
You were talking about the way that people watch the original animes, that the timings of the sounds and all the information is not sort of right the script. Is there plans to explore maybe like AI machine learning to sort of to take out the tedium of essentially watching and annotating every frame, minute and second of an anime on sound?
I'm sorry, the question is it having to do with AI? I'm sorry.
What I'm saying is, like, you talked before that people watch the original source material to find out the minute, second frame of the sounds that are made in anime. Are there plans, as far as you're aware, in the translation process to essentially look at maybe, say, AI or something to take the element out and make it such more about having the data immediately rather than having to manually acquire it?
I'm not sure. I assume at some point there will be a technology that can catch up to that and be able to do so, but at the moment I believe it would still be pretty fallible. And sometimes, to be honest, there will be a little bit of moving and shaking and budget that is chosen by human eyes and human minds to make sure that whatever's going on, even if this was exactly where it started in Japanese, maybe we'll fudge it by a few frames this way or a few frames that way, just so that we can include one last syllable, or we can finish a little earlier, or we can get that pertinent piece of information finished at the exact right moment for the most dramatic impact, and such and so forth. As far as like with using AI and automating a lot of these things, it's a very touchy subject, especially in the States at the moment, because a lot of those like the larger studios, are starting to move in and possibly eliminate some of those working class jobs in a way that is not necessarily kosher. They're not using the technology in a way that assists those jobs. They're using it in a way that destroys those jobs and ends them. That we're super not excited about.
That's part of the reason why it's no really. That's the reaction.
Yeah, so at the moment, I'm sure that there's probably a way to create that and make that happen because that would save money. And what a lot of people really want to do is do that, especially when they're in a higher station. However, just because you can, should you? Maybe not. It's a murky conversation. If you can find a way to make these things happen, that will be the betterment for the grand scheme rather than just a few wallets. I'd love to have the conversation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Hiya.
Hello again.
Hiya.
You kind of answered the main part of my question already, so I'm going to try and go a little bit further with regarding like video game scripts as well as sort of anime scripts. In terms of like the broader writing of things like, for example, we've got there is kind of script form and it's just a recap of what they're doing. But in terms of like, if you're trying to set the scenes and like things like that, is that something that you would know to about or?
So a lot of these things, yeah. So that part would not necessarily be a part of anime adaptation because that's all set for you. When you're recording anime, you get to see the animation beforehand. You get to see the original performance beforehand. You go moment by moment and you preview that moment that you're going to be acting. So you see it, you hear the music, you feel the ambiance, and you know what you're going to say and who you're saying it to. And then you perform. So you do the preview and then you do the record. And so that's all set for you in anime in particular. Those other things you need to be doing would most likely be in Western animation, or what's called 3D animation, where write out the full script first, and you set the scene, you give the action in text and all of those other things, and then you have the dialogue, and then you hand that off to the director and the actors. They do it, and then you take what they recorded, and then you animate to that. And that's where all of those things are. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to try to hurry through. We only have 2 minutes left.
Okay.
So I
Oh,
just
no
wanna-
problem.
Yeah.
I ready super quick. What we got? Yeah.
Nice and quick.
Okay, good. I was just going to ask, do you have any contact information? Keep those to your board because I really would like to be inspired voice actor. Also, you're about technical photo. Did you get all that? As a mistake, or did you make a mistake?
As far as becoming a voice actor or a writer yourself, that is something that you're aspiring to do if you want to be an animated actor. These things, for voice acting in particular, you want to start with acting classes. I know you probably heard that 1,000 times, but it really is true. You want to start out with acting first, get comfortable as an actor, and then the more skills that you put together there, that you start taking more and more specialized classes. So you start with acting, and then you move into voice acting. You learn more about the equipment like you're talking about there, and then maybe you learn about commercial voice acting, and then maybe you learn about promos, and then maybe you learn about narration, and animation, and interactive, which is video games, and there's so much more, and it gets more and more and more honed. And as you're taking those classes with those people, you are taking classes with people who are working in the industry, and those are the people that you're networking with, and those are the people who give you those opportunities. That's sort of how that all works.
Okay. So, since we have
I would start taking those acting classes, and those acting classes are primarily available online now, live, especially because of COVID and lockdown. Those things have all kind of jumped into the digital space, so it doesn't matter where you are on the planet, you can't take these classes.
Okay, yeah, I had a technical mistake though. When you were recording it, yeah, but it's been like a huge technical mistake.
Yeah, everything is followable, everyone is followable. I remember there was one time I was recording a video game, and the internet and power went out for the entire quadrant of the city that I was in. So in the middle of the line, everything went down, and I was completely disconnected with the rest of the team, and you had to just stop and record it all over again later. So yeah, sometimes those things happen, and they all have to be accounted for. What's your question, Ryan?
So you mentioned that sometimes you have to explain things in Japanese versus English language speaking to make it understandable to the English language audience. And I know that subscripts also adaptation to play. How much does the person doing the dub script versus the subtitles or the series liaise with each other, or are they often the same?
Sometimes, so the interesting thing about the subtitles is sometimes if there's not a lot of money involved in the production, they may just send the subtitle script to the script actor. The thing about subtitles is that the way that those are written, they are written with the idea of how long it takes the human eye to read something, and so not necessarily with the idea of getting everybody all of the information at once. So the subtitles are there for as long as the character is on the screen. And and it takes longer for a human eye to read than it does for a human ear to hear and comprehend language. So in fact, subtitles have less information than even just a direct translation to a dub actor. So the subs actually include far less of the story and information than the dubs do often, as long as they're not working from the subs. Because the subs have to remove a lot of that information specifically for time to make sure that you have time to read and comprehend what is being said. Sure thing?
Really quickly, I have two quick ones. I'm just trying to be really quick. One, I wonder in the 90s, they're obviously thinking about changing out, rice balls, jelly donuts, and not giving a crap about the Japanese culture and because you're doing it for American kids. And also, something like in Dragon Ball Z, I think Goku would say, I sure could go for a burger right now, and it's like they don't really eat burgers in Japan, not to the same extent as America. Was it they felt it was a necessity to adapt it that way, or was it just they didn't give a crap about Japanese culture back then?
It was absolutely thought of as a necessity. And like I said before, it was primarily because the client, the Japanese client, asked for these changes because they were worried that the English-speaking culture at large would not understand those things. They just wanted to make sure it was as relatable as possible, not necessarily alienating or not caring about the Japanese culture. It was actually much more to celebrate.
My other question is really quick. You said you were involved in Continental. I absolutely love that anime. It was a beautiful anime. Which character was it you voiced? I didn't look it up, sorry.
I played Ray, so the one with the eye covered with black hair.
Oh yeah, my favourite line, I haven't watched the English dub yet, I don't know how it was translated, but when they say hi to him and he's just like, it's just really chill.
Oh yeah.
Was it the exact same word in English?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Yeah, alright, I'll work out when I get a chance in English dub, thank you.
Excellent, thank you, sir.
Hi, just a real quick question. You said that that this is the final script, would you say?
This is the script.
This is the script.
Yep.
Have they ever, when you're doing the recordings and they said this is the final script, have they ever changed a line or several lines in the last minute? And for what reason?
Constantly.
Yeah.
And it all just depends. Sometimes it's because the writers can only know so much, and every actor is very different. So if you heard earlier 1,000 times, he was stubborn. That particular actress, Monica Rial, is wonderful. She also takes her time and will just live in the moment, right? So it takes a lot of time. And so she needs far fewer words to say than maybe somebody else who's so speaking about right? And so sometimes you add extra words for one person, you take a bunch out for somebody else, and maybe you don't have enough for one person, and so perhaps they'll add and give a little bit more for one, they might have to take out for another, or they may get a whole new idea or like a joke that they want to add in or something. Sometimes that just happens in the movie.
So it changes as it goes.
It absolutely changes as it goes. The absolute final script is really only in the hands of the director, and the director hands that off, and that's done. Sure thing. Thank you so much. And that, my friends, is our time. Thank you for hanging out with me for my I hope you enjoyed it. If you did get your personal pass, one last time, you will be signing autographs at 2 o'clock right over there. That will be the final time to hang out with us, so I encourage you to do so. Even if you don't want to come get the print, you're more than welcome to just say hi and come over and laugh and all that good stuff. So thank you so much.